have always had a love-hate relationship with the uniform that I have had to wear. I have had many moments where I have dreaded putting on my uniform. I remember one day specifically getting ready for a closing shift. It was hot. It was so hot. Summer, Texas hot. I already knew it was going to be a busy day. We had makeup appointments. I had appointments. There was an event. I was exhausted before I even left the house. And I had to put on this thick, heavy blazer. Man, I did not want to wear this blazer. I was literally wrestling with it, trying to get it on. Even though it fit, I just didn't want to put it on. I was just irritated. I was sweating before I even left the house, and I ripped the inside lining of this jacket. Thank God it was inside because I could hide it. But I remember standing there thinking, why am I this uncomfortable? Before I've even started my shift, I'm about to be on the floor all day, doing makeup, running around, helping clients in a store that gets hot, where sometimes the AC, it barely feels like it's working, if it's working at all, because sometimes it would just break down, especially in the middle of the summer, Texas heat. And here I am in this beautiful jacket. Truthfully, the jacket was really beautiful. It looked amazing. It represented the brand. You see it, you saw it, you knew the brand. It was beautiful and polished. But on the inside of this jacket, it was suffocating, distracting, uncomfortable. I wanted to support the brand, but really, it didn't matter. I didn't have a choice. I had to wear this uniform. If I wanted to work there, I had to wear it. Welcome back to Sorry, It's Discontinued. I'm Hillary, and this is a podcast about the world of retail and the people who keep it going every day. And today, I need a little retail therapy because through my career, the dreaded uniform, I have wanted to talk about it. Where did the uniform come from? How much has it really changed by 2026? Because if you've worked in retail long enough, either you've worn one, you've been forced to wear one, or you definitely remember one. Sorry. It's discontinued. When I say uniform, your mind might go straight to the beauty floor, cosmetic department, fragrance counter. Maybe you think of suits. But do you remember the black fragrance smock back in the day? Of course, you remember the Clinique white jacket. It's still around. That signature blue Estee Lauder look. Very old school, very structured, thick fabric, hot. And I think about all the women wearing these uniforms, standing in heels on concrete floors all day. And if you've worked in retail long enough, you've already experienced the dreaded uniform. You had to look on brand, but even when you looked on brand, you didn't feel like yourself. Because uniforms, there's a level of control there. It's a company deciding what you look like, how you present, who you are on that floor. Maybe if you're lucky, maybe you loved your uniform or you love it, the uniform that you have now. Maybe it made you feel confident or you feel confident in it. You feel like you belonged. You're a part of a team, part of a brand, something bigger than yourself. But now in 2026, as individuality, inclusivity, and comfort are taking center stage now, what were uniforms really like in the beginning? And how much have they evolved? So we have to go back. What is the history of the uniform? I know. It's something I've thought about. I might be alone. I might be the only one. I know my friend 180 is already like, oh my God, Hillary, this episode, it's so boring. But we need to go back to understand how we got here. right? Recently, I've been watching Mr. Selfridge, and I watched The Paradise, basically about, early department stores, obviously, at the beginning of the 1900s. So when you think of these stores like Selfridge's opening in 1909 in London, or Neiman Marcus even in Dallas in 1907, uniforms were not about comfort. They were about control, class, image. Women on the beauty and fashion floors, they had to wear long ankle-length black dresses or skirts, high necklines, very buttoned up, literally, and corsets. Corsets. Working all day. Can you imagine a corset in Texas heat? Actually, I've worn a waist trainer before during work, but I don't know, corsets, the thicker. But white blouses and lace collars, hair pinned up, minimal individuality. Sometimes aprons for certain departments, and men, they had to wear full suits and waistcoats, ties, bow ties, polished shoes. Employees were expected to look like refined, upper class. You were essentially a model of the store's ideal customer. And behavior, of course, mattered just as much as the appearance. Poised, you're quiet, proper. And at that time, department stores were becoming social spaces for women. So employees had to reflect that elegance and respectability. They weren't just selling products, they were selling aspiration and status. Then you jump from the 20s to the 40s. As ready to wear, fashion expanded, and stores became more modern and uniforms evolved. Shorter hemlines, more tailored silhouettes. So instead of full Victorian shapes and matching hats or gloves, everything kind of softened a bit, but heels became standard. And beauty counters, they started to emerge more clearly. Women still polished, more approachable, but still controlled. And employees look like they belonged in a fashion ad. And then you go into the 50s to the 70s, which I think of Marvelous Miss Maisel. Oh my gosh, that show, costume design is incredible. And I love when she's working in the department store and you get to see what it actually looked like at that time. They did an incredible job. But you look at that and you can see kind of the birth of brand identity. Brands started controlling the look, not just the store. So the store wasn't just in charge of the uniform, it was the brand that the people worked for. So matching skirt suits, coordinated colors, think Estee Lauder, polished hair, makeup required. And you were no longer just a store employee. You were a walking advertisement for the brand you worked for. And this is when beauty advisors became more salesperson, educator, brand ambassador, and it transitioned into the 80s to 2000s, where power dressing and performance pressure, black suits everywhere, and then the Clinique white lab coat, iconic, popped up. Still heels, full glam, makeup, hair done, very strict grooming standards. You represent luxury. You have to look the part. High pressure, high expectation. Very little personal expression. Then you move into present day. What has changed? Is it better? So uniforms used to be about one thing. Looking like the brand, you fit the image, you had to follow the rules, you wore what they gave you. Like my jacket. But now, uniforms are becoming very different. It has shifted to how you feel in them, how long you can actually stay comfortable on the floor, and how well you represent the brand without losing yourself in the process. Because brands are finally realizing their associates are uncomfortable, hot, restricted, adjusting their clothes. It shows. Also, investment. Do they really want to invest in clothes that a lot of times employees don't want to wear or don't fit correctly, or an employee starts working for the company, they give them the uniform, and then they end up quitting or leaving the brand. So uniforms, they're no longer just about appearance. They're about what the brand stands for too. We're seeing more organic cotton, recycled fabrics, lower waste production because employees and customers, they're paying attention. People want to know, what does this brand represent? And that can show up in something as simple as what their employees are wearing. We're moving away from stiff fabrics, heavy jackets, one size fits all uniforms. And a lot of companies are moving more towards stretch, breathable, lightweight fabrics, materials that actually move with your body. Because you cannot perform at your best if you're physically uncomfortable. And for so long, uniforms were designed for a very specific type of person. If you didn't fit that, you had to adjust yourself to fit the uniform. Tall, slender model figure? No, like me in that dang jacket. It was not made for a full-figured, big-boobed, big-booty girl like myself. It was just uncomfortable. But now we're finally seeing gender-neutral options, more inclusive sizing, better fits for real body types. We're also seeing where dress code has shifted everything, where brands or companies, stores are saying, here, this is the brand aesthetic, work within it. You get more mix and match pieces, more flexibility, and it gives people more room to breathe. Also, what has really accelerated all of this is social media, because now employees are visible, brands are visible. And if something feels outdated, uncomfortable, or non-inclusive, it can go viral very fast. So brands are under pressure to be more inclusive, be more realistic, and be more human. Because the next generation, they care about authenticity, they care about individuality, and they are not afraid to call things out. I also think, personally, uniforms impact retention. If companies are paying attention, the smart ones are realizing if your employees are uncomfortable, restricted, or unhappy in what they are wearing, it affects everything. It affects morale, confidence, performance, and whether someone even wants to come back to work the next day. So that heavy jacket, that suffocating blouse, that just deal with it mentality, that's exactly what brands, at least the smart ones, are trying to move away from now. And this just isn't happening at a small level. It's coming from the top. You've got companies like Nordstrom's making commitments to sustainability, ethical sourcing, and what impact it can make on their employees. You look at Sephora, they're focusing on sustainability, inclusivity, transparency, not just in the products, but in the culture. It's not as rigid as it used to be. There's more room for individuality while still staying on brand. But then you've got big luxury houses like LVMH, Kering. They're investing heavily in sustainability and materials, and how their brands show up in the world. And if their employees are comfortable and they feel supported, especially in their uniforms, because luxury, it can't just look good anymore. It has to actually be good. And all of that, it trickles down. When companies make changes, when they consider what's comfortable for their employees, their uniforms, all of that trickles down into other stores, into other companies, and other cultures. Because now uniforms aren't just about looking polished. They're part of a bigger conversation, and how employees feel are important, and how long they stay, and how confident they can show up and do their job. Take care of their customers. So then the business grows. Honestly, it makes me think back to those moments on the floor when I'm standing there in that jacket and I'm trying to smile through it. But I realize, not every uniform I wore was bad. There was actually a uniform. There was a couple that I really loved. And one of them was my Prescriptives uniform. When I first started in the beauty industry around 2000, I remember feeling so excited about this uniform I was going to get to wear. I didn't have a lot of money at the time. Remember, it was Foley's and I was making $7.25 an hour. And when I was hired on, they gave me this uniform for Prescriptives. So not having to figure out what to wear every day, that alone felt like a gift. But it was deeper than that because it took me back to being young with my mom, walking through these department stores with her and seeing those women behind the counters and how beautiful they were, how confident they were, intimidating, but in the best way. They look like they belong to something. And suddenly, here I am. I was one of them. I'm wearing the uniform, standing behind the counter for Prescriptives, this department store in Texas. I was a part of that world. And this Prescriptives uniform, it was different. It wasn't like a lot of the uniforms that are around or were around at the time. I wonder who designed it. It was lightweight. It was this long, tailored button in the front, sheer fabric that moved with my body. It was like a dress jacket. And at the time, Matrix was like one of the number one movies. And I felt like Trinity from the Matrix when I put this jacket on, or this long, drapey blouse jacket. I felt confident. And I was excited to be a part of this whole experience and this brand. Putting this on, it was like, let's match some freaking foundation, y'all. Oh, gosh, I missed the magic powder. That powder was so good. But I felt so confident. And when a uniform makes you feel like that, when you feel that good in what you're wearing and the brand that you're representing, and knowing that the brand is investing in you in this uniform, they want you to feel comfortable so you can do your job well. It changes everything. Now, more and more advisors in beauty and fashion and retail, they're starting to get that feeling. I think brands are shifting. And I think it's happening more often now than ever before, especially in 2026. And the truth is, the most powerful thing on the floor, it's not the uniform. It's always you. It's always the associate. It's your energy, your presence, your ability to connect with people. And that's what people remember. Not the jacket. It's you. So, what's your favorite uniform? What's your uniform story? Do you have to wear a uniform? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Was there a uniform that you wore that you were just like, or one that you saw that you were completely mesmerized by that you really loved? Anyway, I appreciate you guys for sitting with me today, and I hope that you got something out of today's episode, and I hope you have a beautiful week and you take care of yourself. I think the weather's going to be really nice. Go for a walk, shop in store, support your local sales associates. Don't forget, smile, whether you're behind the counter or in front of it. And I'll see you next time. All right, guys, take care of yourself. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Sorry, It's Discontinued, the podcast that brings you the reality of retail and the people, brands, stores, and products we all love. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit follow, leave a review, or share it with a fellow retail warrior. You can always connect with me or support the show at sorryitsdiscontinued.com or buymeacoffee.com/sorrypodcast. Now, this podcast is independently produced and not sponsored by any brand, company, or organization. All views, opinions, and personal stories shared are their own and do not represent any retailer or brand mentioned. Brand names, product references, and service mentions are included for storytelling and commentary purposes only. But I thank you so much for sitting with me today. And remember, continue to shop in store, support your local stores and your local sales associates. You can even call them and order. It's amazing. And every visit helps keep these stores open so we can all continue enjoying real in-person retail therapy. And I'll see you next time. I appreciate you so much. Bye. Sorry. It's discontinued.